Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to the Sahara Desert, one of the harshest environments on Earth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Can you imagine, standing under that relentless sun with nothing but sand dunes as far as you can see?
It's a landscape that truly pushes life to its limits. Creatures have to adapt in extraordinary ways.
And that brings us to the star of our deep dive,
Okay.
the Fennec fox.
Oh, cool.
Not just any fox, mind you, but the smallest wild dog on the planet.
Well, actually, they're not technically dogs. They're
Uh-huh.
part of the canid family,
Okay.
which includes wolves, foxes, and jackals.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
So this tiny canid, often weighing less than a house cat, somehow makes a living in that intense desert heat.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is incredible.
Yeah.
And our source material for this deep dive is a fascinating PBS Nature documentary.
Okay.
It followed a film crew as they try to capture these creatures on film, and it seems like they faced quite a few hurdles.
Oh, yeah, the documentary really highlights the challenges of filming in such a harsh and unforgiving environment.
But it also revealed something fascinating about Fennec foxes.
Okay, what's that?
They're incredibly tuned into their surroundings.
The cameraman even mentioned how any unnatural sound would send them scurrying,
Oh, wow.
which I guess makes sense if you're trying to survive in a place where every rustle in the sand could mean a predator is nearby.
Precisely. And it's not just their hearing, their camouflage helps them blend seamlessly into the sand.
Yeah.
In the Sahara, being able to disappear in a blink is the difference between life and death.
I can only imagine how frustrating that must have been for the film crew.
Yeah.
Did they have any tricks up their sleeve to capture these masters of hide and seek?
Well, they actually used a remote-controlled vehicle,
Oh, wow.
nicknamed the Dachshund,
The dachshund.
to try and approach the Fennecs.
What? I can't help but chuckle, imagining the Fennecs peering out from their burrows, wondering what that strange creature is rolling towards them.
I know, it's pretty funny to think about.
But sadly, as the documentary revealed,
The clumsy film crew isn't the biggest threat these little guys face.
that's true. The documentary sheds light on the dark world of illegal trapping, fueled by the insatiable demand for exotic pets,
Right.
and the desire of some tourists to capture a fleeting moment with these captivating creatures.
There was one scene that really stuck with me.
Okay.
The crew discovered a Fennec fox with a trap clamped onto its leg, and it vanished into the dunes, leaving everyone wondering about its fate.
Oh, gosh.
It's heartbreaking.
It really is, and the issue isn't limited to just individual animal suffering.
Right.
The consequences are much wider.
The local expert, Ali, said that he often sees children catching Fennecs and selling them to tourists.
Oh, wow.
And he said it makes him very, very sad to see this happening.
It's easy to understand why he'd feel that way.
Yeah.
This kind of unregulated trade could have devastating consequences, potentially wiping out entire local populations of Fennec foxes.
It's a stark reminder that our choices as consumers and travelers have ripple effects across the globe. And speaking of tourism, the documentary didn't paint a very rosy picture of that industry either.
Yeah, you're bringing up another important point. The documentary also reveals the darker side of tourism,
Yeah?
showcasing how irresponsible behavior can have detrimental effects on wildlife.
They found a Jed Fennec fox near a popular motorbike spot.
Oh, no.
It makes you think twice about the impact our travels can have.
It certainly does. Responsible tourism is about respecting wildlife and their habitats,
Right.
not treating them as mere entertainment or photo opportunities.
How? Ollie suggested creating protected zones specifically for Fennecs.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It seems like a good solution, creating spaces where they can be safe from human interference.
It's an idea that recognizes the need for coexistence, ensuring that both humans and wildlife can thrive.
Mm-hmm.
But what's fascinating here is that the film crew, despite facing these challenges and witnessing the threats,
Yeah.
they didn't give up.
They didn't.
Oh,
I'm curious to hear what happened.
yeah,
Did they finally manage to capture these elusive creatures on film?
they did.
They did.
They had a breakthrough moment, finally capturing footage of the Fennecs in their natural habitat.
Oh, what a relief.
Yeah.
After everything they'd gone through to finally get the shot they were hoping for, it must have been incredibly
It
rewarding.
must have been.
Did they mention what it felt like to finally witness those Fennecs up close?
The cameraman said he couldn't actually believe it after all the time they spent searching.
Wow.
It seems the feeling of finally capturing a moment like that after so much effort is pure exhilaration.
Yeah.
And there's more good news.
Okay.
Remember that Fennec fox with the trap on its leg?
I was wondering what happened to it.
Yeah,
I hope they found it and it was okay.
they did.
Oh, good.
Ollie was able to rescue it, free it from the trap, and assess the wound.
Wow.
He actually believes it's going to survive.
That's amazing. A bit of hope amidst all the challenges.
It's a reminder that even in the face of adversity, there's always a glimmer of hope, a testament to the resilience of life.
And speaking of hope, did they mention anything about conservation efforts in Morocco?
They did.
Okay.
It turns out Morocco has laws in place to protect Fennec foxes, banning hunting, killing, and capturing.
That's reassuring. It shows that there are efforts being made to safeguard their future.
It's a reminder that conservation efforts can and do make a difference, even if there are setbacks along the way.
So it's a bit of a mixed bag, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
We've got this amazing animal perfectly adapted to this harsh environment, yet facing threats from human activities.
Mm,
But there's also hope in the form of conservation efforts and people like Ali who are dedicated to protecting them.
absolutely.
This brings up a really fascinating question. What are the ethical implications of keeping exotic animals as pets?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's a complex question with no easy answers. On one hand, some people genuinely love and care for exotic animals, providing them with seemingly good care. But can a domestic environment ever truly replicate the wild?
That's what I was wondering. We've learned so much about how fennec foxes are adapted to their specific desert niche. It makes me question if it's even possible to meet their needs in captivity.
It's a valid concern. Imagine plucking a creature perfectly evolved for a world of sand and silence and placing it in a bustling human home. The mismatch is pretty stark.
It makes me think about those incredible burrows they dig. Those weren't just shelters, they were almost like underground cities with climate control and escape routes.
Precisely. These intricate networks of tunnels speak to their remarkable ability to outsmart predators and regulate their body temperature in extreme conditions. It's a feat of engineering we could learn a lot from.
It makes you realize how much we take for granted living in our temperature-controlled homes. But those burrows were also crucial for raising their young, weren't they?
Absolutely. The underground chambers provided a safe and secure environment for the pups to develop. It was like a natural nursery, shielding them from the dangers of the outside world while allowing the parents to focus on teaching them essential survival skills.
But eventually, those pups have to grow up and venture out to face the challenges of the Sahara. I'm curious, how do they manage to find food in that vast and often barren landscape?
Well, they've evolved some pretty ingenious hunting techniques. They're nocturnal hunters, meaning they're most active at night when the desert temperatures cool down.
Smart move. I wouldn't want to be out in that scorching sun either.
Yeah.
But hunting under the cover of darkness brings its own set of challenges. How do they find prey in the dark?
Their supersized ears play a crucial role here. They're incredibly sensitive to sound, acting like natural radar dishes, picking up the faintest rustle of a scorpion scuttling beneath the sand, or a jerboa hopping between the dunes.
Wow, I never realized their ears were so crucial for hunting. It's amazing how all these adaptations work together to help them survive. But even with all these incredible survival skills, we've already discussed some of the major threats they face.
Sadly, yes. And one of the most significant threats, as we touched upon earlier, is the illegal pet trade. The allure of owning an exotic creature like a fennec fox can be strong, but it often fuels a dark industry.
It's hard to believe that something as seemingly innocent as wanting a unique pet can have such devastating consequences for entire populations.
It's a reminder that our choices, even seemingly small ones, can have ripple effects across the globe. The demand for exotic pets often drives trapping and smuggling, pushing fennec foxes closer to the brink.
And as we learned earlier, Morocco has laws in place to protect fennec foxes. But sadly, illegal activities still persist. It's a complex problem that requires more than just legislation.
Absolutely. Enforcement is crucial, but so is addressing the root causes, like raising public awareness about the ethical implications of owning exotic pets and providing alternative livelihoods for those involved in the illegal wildlife trade. It's a multifaceted challenge that requires a collaborative approach.
It's a good reminder that conservation efforts often involve tackling issues that are bigger than just protecting a single species.
You hit the nail on the head there. And speaking broader challenges, we can't overlook the issue of habitat loss and fragmentation.
That's another point the documentary highlighted. It's easy to forget that as humans expand our footprint on the planet, we're squeezing out other species, reducing their space to roam, find food, and raise their young.
Exactly. In the case of fennec foxes, the expansion of agriculture, urbanization, and infrastructure development is encroaching on their desert homes, fragmenting their habitat into smaller and smaller patches.
It's like taking a giant puzzle and scattering the pieces. Even if some pieces remain, the picture's incomplete. and the fennec foxes struggle to navigate this fragmented landscape.
Precisely. Fragmentation not only reduces the overall amount of suitable habitat, but also makes it more difficult for fennec foxes to find mates and establish territories. It can also isolate populations, making them more susceptible to disease and genetic bottlenecks.
It's a sobering reminder that our actions can have unintended consequences, disrupting the delicate balance of ecosystems. But habitat loss isn't the only environmental challenge they face.
Sadly, no. We also need to consider the growing threat of climate change.
That's a big one. And it's something that impacts virtually every corner of the planet, including the Sahara Desert.
It does. Imagine the scorching Sahara becoming even hotter, the droughts more prolonged. That's the reality fennec foxes are facing. The very environment they've evolved to thrive in is changing, pushing their limits even further.
It makes those adaptations we talked about earlier seem even more remarkable.
Yeah.
They're already living on the edge, conserving every drop of water, regulating their body temperature in extreme conditions. Now imagine those challenges being amplified by climate change.
It's a dire situation, and it underscores the urgency of addressing climate change, not just for the sake of our planet, but for the countless species like the fennec fox whose survival depends on a stable climate.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the enormity of these challenges. But the documentary did offer some reasons for hope, didn't it?
It did. Despite the hurdles, the crew's determination to capture those magical fennec fox moments paid off. And remember Ollie, the local expert who rescued the trapped fennec fox.
Yes. It was inspiring to see his dedication and expertise. He clearly cares deeply about these animals.
Yeah, he does. And he represents a growing movement of people around the world working tirelessly to protect fennec foxes and their habitat.
That's good to hear. Are there any specific organizations or initiatives that stand out?
There are. One organization that comes to mind is the Fennec Fox Conservation Project. They're doing incredible work combining research education, community engagement, and habitat protection into a multi-pronged approach.
Sounds like they're covering all the bases.
Yeah.
Tell me more about their research. What are they focusing on?
They're conducting studies to better understand fennec fox populations, their distribution, their behavior, and the threats they face. It's all about gathering data to inform their conservation efforts.
Knowledge is power, as they say. And it seems like they're not just focusing on scientific research, they're also working to educate people about fennec foxes.
They are. They're working with local communities, tourists, and policymakers, raising awareness about the importance of conservation.
It's inspiring to see how they're empowering people to become stewards of these incredible creatures.
It is. And their efforts extend beyond education. They're also working to protect and restore fennec fox habitat.
That's crucial. We can't just focus on protecting the animals themselves. We need to protect the places they call home.
Precisely. They're working with governments and landowners to establish protected areas, manage land sustainably, and create safe havens where fennec foxes can thrive without the constant threat of human encroachment.
It's amazing to see how these efforts are coming together to make a real difference on the ground.
It is, but their success wouldn't be possible without the support of people like you and me.
You're right. It's easy to feel like our individual actions are insignificant, but collectively we can have a huge impact.
Absolutely. Whether it's supporting conservation organizations like the Fennec Fox Conservation Project, making responsible choices as travelers, or simply spreading awareness, every little bit counts.
I'm curious, are there any specific things travelers can do to minimize their impact on fennec foxes and their habitat?
There are. It starts with being mindful of our choices. For example, when choosing a tour operator, do your research and opt for companies that prioritize sustainable practices and respect for wildlife.
That's a great tip. I know some tours offer experiences like riding camels or taking photos with captive wildlife. Those are probably best avoided, right?
Definitely. These activities often exploit animals for entertainment or profit and can be detrimental to their well-being. Remember, responsible tourism is about appreciating wildlife in their natural environment, not interfering with their lives or contributing to their exploitation.
It's about being a respectful observer, not a disruptor. And speaking of respect in wildlife, let's talk about something that might surprise you. Feral cats are actually a growing threat to fennec foxes, even in the Sahara Desert.
In feral cats in the desert, that does seem a bit out of place.
Doesn't it? But it's a problem that's becoming more and more common in many parts of the world, including desert ecosystems. These cats, either abandoned or having gone wild, are incredibly adaptable and can have a significant impact on native wildlife.
So they're essentially competing with fennec foxes for resources and potentially even preying on them.
Exactly. Feral cats are skilled hunters, and they'll prey on anything they can catch, including small mammals, birds, reptiles, and even insects. This puts them in direct competition with fennec foxes for food.
And given their small